When I first moved to Mexico 3 years ago, I was bombarded by scary stories of the dangers that I'd face here. But the truth is, the scariest thing is not what you'd see on the news. So this is likely going to be a controversial topic for some, but the truth is, you're probably more likely to be killed in your home country than here in Mexico. In this video, I'm going to talk about a few different safety topics about life here in Mexico, and this isn't just my opinion. These are facts based on statistics from Canada, the United States, and Mexico. So as we jump into the topic of safety and living in North America, what do you think the biggest misconception is about living here in Mexico? Let's start with some hard numbers that make Mexico look dangerous. The national murder rate. In Mexico, it's an alarming 23.3 people for every 100,000. Compare that to 6.8 and 1.9 in the United States and Canada. So on the surface, yeah, it's no wonder we can say that Mexico is a dangerous country. The thing is, those numbers are heavily skewed. In Mexico, the state of Colima has a murder rate of over 100 per 100,000, which is much higher than any state or province in Canada or the United States. But here's the key. Most of Mexico isn't like that. We can compare some of the safest states in Mexico to parts of the United States and Canada. Take the state of Yucatán, for example. In Yucatán, the home of the city Mérida, the murder rate is 2.2 per 100,000. That's less than the US national average and comparable to Canada's 1.9 national average. Other states in Mexico like Chiapas, Campeche, and Baja California have murder rates similar to the Canadian provinces of Manitoba and Saskatchewan. Even here in Querétaro, our murder rate is 8.4 per 100,000. That's comparable to the city of Denver or the Canadian province of the Yukon. So this should show you that your safety, as far as murder goes, really depends on where you are. You got to ask yourself, what's the murder rate of where you're living right now compared to some of these places in Mexico? But we're just getting started. Beyond murder rates, we should also ask about kidnappings. And this is a fear a lot of people have, and I think it's definitely a topic that's played up by the media. Actually, maybe not played up, but we hear about it in the media. And it's a scary concept for us to think about. But the numbers might surprise you. So Mexico's official rate for kidnappings is 0.5 for every 100,000 people. The US's is even lower at 0.2. But the number that often shocks people is Canada's 9.69 kidnappings for every 100,000 people. Is Canada more dangerous? The key is in the numbers. In Canada, domestic disputes over custody are counted as kidnappings. To add a little context, in 2022, there were over 1,000 parental abductions and only 40 abductions by strangers in Canada. So this means that if we look at abductions, kidnappings in Canada, and only those by strangers, the number, the rate for Canada would be significantly lower, much closer to the numbers of the US and Mexico. And here in Mexico, the opposite is almost definitely true. Experts agree that the rate of kidnappings is likely much higher, as here in Mexico, kidnappings are rarely reported because of fear from organized crime, gang groups, the cartels. While the numbers for Canada look quite bad, here in Mexico, on paper, the numbers look good. while in reality, both are probably completely wrong. Let's talk about some other dangers. You're more likely to die in a car accident here in Mexico than in Canada, but not necessarily in the US. The risk of a fatal car crash in the US is 12.8 out of 100,000, while in Mexico, 15.3. In Canada, it's just under 5 in 100,000. The higher rate in Mexico is often due to just poor road conditions. And of course, poor road conditions apparently is dangerous enough. But in the US, those accidents are caused by speeding and distracted driving. And there's another issue to factor into all of this. So let's have a look at the national life expectancy for these three countries. Mexico's national life expectancy is 75 years. The US, 77. Canadians are doing a little better, 82 years in Canada. So these differences in life expectancy aren't because of genetics, and they're also not because of a murder rate or safety rate. It's because not everyone has access to good quality health care. You know, here in Mexico, the national average wage is much lower than it is in the United States and in Canada. So a lot of people just can't access good quality private health care. Of course, for expats and more affluent Mexican citizens, it's a completely different story. Private hospitals here are modern and clean, and for those who can afford them, these people can live a long and healthy life. Unfortunately, we can tie some of the vehicle fatalities also to access of quality health care. Here in Querétaro is a major city. We have good access, but in many parts of Mexico, immediate access can be difficult. And so when an accident on the road happens, it might be in a more remote location. It might take time to get to the hospital. And of course, unfortunately, that would increase the number of fatalities. So what's the bottom line? The bottom line is that statistically speaking, for an expat, you're likely safer here in Mexico than you are in your home country. Before I wrap this up, I want to say one more thing about those statistics. Back in 2022, there were 60 murders of American citizens here in Mexico. 60 out of 12 million visitors. So if we make a comparison, that is the same population as about the state of Pennsylvania. The thing is, we also need to add in one additional fact. What the statistics don't tell us is how many of those 60 people were in one of those high-risk, dangerous areas that I mentioned earlier. The statistics also don't tell us how many of those people were involved in dangerous or criminal activity. Police everywhere in the world will tell you the same thing. It's just common sense. If you travel to dangerous places, if you involve yourself in criminal activity or dangerous activities, you increase your risk of something dangerous happening. And of course, if you avoid the dangerous areas, dangerous and criminal activities or people, you're much less likely to find yourself in trouble. So, 3 years, going on 4, living here in Mexico, what tips would I have for someone thinking about moving here? You know, really, these are not tips just for Mexico, but of course they apply here. Don't do anything stupid. Don't go into the dangerous areas that are known for high murder rates. Don't involve yourself with dangerous people. Stay away from drugs, other dangerous activities. Don't flash around your money. Choose smart ways to travel. getting in a street taxi on a dark street in a dangerous town probably isn't the wisest thing to do. You know, I've traveled throughout Europe, North America, Asia, and Australia, and I would apply these principles to everywhere in the world.